Good morning, St. Peter's. We continue with our devotion. We are up to day 14, and we actually have come to the end of this whole section of the Sermon on the Mount. When we've seen 14 different. This is why it's day 14. We're going to see the 14th in the pattern of structure. Remember, it starts off with a negative, do not, traditional teaching, do not, which leads to a vicious cycle. And then we have a transforming initiative. Instead, be childlike in this particular way. Do not lead adultish-like behaviour, which leads to this. Instead, be children of your Father in heaven. And so today we come to our final part. And so we're going to summarise. We'll take a little bit longer today and summarise all of our devotional material where we've come. But verse 6, let's start here. Verse 6, don't give what is holy to dogs, or toss your pearls before pigs, or they will trample them under your feet, turn and tear you to pieces. What a weird passage. What is he talking about? What is Jesus talking about? There's a lot of difficulty with this because some people put it with chapter 7 verses 1 to 5, which we saw a few days ago about judging and not judging. And so they think, well, don't give to pigs. Well, does this mean, only going so far with people you can go with? Some people will not, take that on very well. Judgment and reconciliation and forgiveness. Does that mean we shouldn't judge those outside? It's only talking about judging brothers. Does this passage, verse 6, mean don't give what is holy to pigs and dogs? Doesn't mean we shouldn't give the gospel to non-believers. Is this verse a whole separate saying whatsoever? The great news is because we've been going through this structure, we can see that this verse seems to fit our structure. If you remember, our Sermon on the Mount structure starts with a negative admonition or traditional teaching. Way back in chapter 5:21, we started off with do not murder. 5:27, do not commit adultery. 5:31, do not divorce without good reason. 5:33, do not break an oath. 5:38, do not forget to take justice, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Chapter 6, 1, 5 and 15, do not practice alms, prayer and fasting for show in front of others. Chapter 6:19, do not store up treasures. Chapter 6, toward the end there, do not have two masters. Chapter 7, verse 1, last week, do not judge. So it seems like when we understand this structure, verse 6 starts with a do not. Do not give that which is holy to dogs, or toss your pearls to pigs. What is this? This is traditional teaching. Jewish people called Gentiles, outsiders, pigs and dogs. This is just what they did. Jesus himself, you may remember, called a woman a Gentile dog in a way, and she responded to him. Jesus is saying here, do not give your trust or your loyalty to those of the world. He's been saying this, do not serve two masters. Remember, he's been peeling off his disciples and saying this is an alternative way to live. And this is a vicious cycle. Otherwise, they'll turn and trample you underfoot and they'll tear you to pieces. Earlier on in the Sermon on the Mount, we saw salt and its distinctiveness, which otherwise is to be thrown out and trampled underfoot unless you are to be different. So, negative admonition is do not give that which is holy to pigs and dogs. I'll explain a bit more of that in a minute. The vicious cycle is otherwise they'll trample and tear you to pieces, and the transform initiative is what you do instead. Verse 7, ask, given to you, seek, and you'll find, knock, and the door will be opened. The point is this. Jesus, if you remember, this is at the end of the Sermon on the Mount. He's at the very start, he went up to the mountain and he gathered his disciples and his people to them, and he was forming a new people around himself, a people who began to trust the Father and who trust God, remember, instead of mammon or money, which is what we saw in chapter 6. They trust God instead of paying back. They learn to forgive and reconcile. They trust God instead of seeking pleasure through sex and so on. They cut that out through the eye and the arm. Instead of anger and allowing anger to get into your heart and to get into revenge and all of that, they trust God and they cut that out, instead reconcile. Instead of skirting the law, they deal with the heart. The disciples and God's people are being formed into a new community against the coercion of the world and the Roman Empire and the way that the world usually works. Today, we are being formed as a new people, called by His grace in the middle of the world. God is faithful, and the world structures are not. The world is after sex, money, power, all of those other gods. And Jesus is saying, give your trust, your loyalty, that which is holy, not to the world, dogs and pigs. Instead, because you'll be trampled by that and you'll be torn underfoot, instead you are to be children of the Holy Father. You're called to a new way of life. You are to give your trust to Him. Ask, seek and knock. And we finish with why. Well, of course, there's this great reasoning about the character of God. Who among you, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone, or if he asks for fish, will give him a snake? If you're evil and you know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good gifts to those who ask Him? Now we're at the end of our structure, and I know you guys have been great, and you would have been following our pattern, and you would have filled out your table. I'm sure you've done that. Let's just have a quick look as we finish this structure on where the table would look like, or what it would look like, because I know you've already seen that already. So let's take a look at that. Okay, St. Peter's, here's the table, and we've filled out our 14, let me count this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14 lines, yes, good. Jesus is teaching us to be childlike, and then we have our traditional adultish teaching, which leads to a vicious cycle, and the instead, what we focus on. Many of us focus, traditionally people focus as they teach this on this left-hand column. Do not kill, do not commit adultery, do not divorce, etc. But Jesus would actually have us focus on this right-hand side. This is the thing that transforms our relationships. And you can see here this wonderful pattern when we put it all as one table. But you have been doing this, I'm sure. You'll be filling out this table over the weeks. And if not, well, here it is here, and you can have a look through this. And you could even maybe put in the Bible references. If you just take a few, we'll just take a few here. Do not forget to divide. Dividing is traditional kind of teaching, right? Hating those who are different from you, those who are your outsiders, and loving your neighbours. This is here, do not forget to divide, loving those like you, hate those who are different. And this is just like behaving like everyone else. This is the vicious cycle. But instead, be childish, be inclusive like your Father who sends rain on good and bad alike. Love your enemies, pray for your persecutors. That's just one example. I just think it's a wonderful structure. And again, the reference is to Glenn Starzen, who has done all of this amazing work on finding the Sermon on the Mount and recognising this. I really didn't understand Jesus' teaching till now, and maybe, I'm sure there's a lot more still to learn. But here is the 14 triads. It's triads, 3 parts, right, on Jesus teaching us to be childlike. That's it for today. But we're still moving through Matthew's Gospel. We're now going to pick up some more childish behaviour and adultish behaviour as we go through Matthew's Gospel. And remember, as you pick up the emails, you'll see each day we have a devotion on suffering and on being people who trust God through the coming weeks. That's it for today. See you tomorrow.